Welcome or welcome back. Today I want to give you some weirdly specific movie recommendations. What qualifies me to give movie recommendations, you might ask? Absolutely nothing, except that I watch movies, like some of them, and I have a Letterboxd account that no one cares about. What are these movies sorted by? I would say vibe. I'm trying to keep these recommendations as varied as possible in terms of genre, tone, and time of release. So there's really something for everyone, I think. But besides, this collection is pretty much random. As usual, I won't spoil big twists and endings, but beware of mild spoilers for these movies. The first recommendation is for a movie that will make you paranoid. Okay, so as a child, I was kinda scared of Jim Carrey. In fact, I still avoid watching films with him in them. Besides movies like A Series of Unfortunate Events, which had me absolutely haunted thanks to its glooming style and this fucking scene. The Truman Show from 1998 was another one of those nightmare trips. We watched that film in school, like I reckon a good chunk of you also have, and I came home a changed person that day. This film is fucking creepy. For anyone that doesn't know what it's about a guy, Truman, who goes about his life not knowing that every day he's being filmed and broadcasted out to the world. He is quite literally a reality star, but without him even knowing that. His everyday life is also a daily soap opera for entertainment of people he doesn't even know exist. There are cameras everywhere, and the people around him, including his wife and best friend, are nothing but paid actors. The Truman Show walked so Black Mirror could run. It is absolutely haunting in its life is a simulation kind of setting. Everything starting from the sets that Truman lives in to the lighthearted tone gives an absolutely uncanny valley effect. And even though I always knew that I didn't live in a dystopian simulation merely serving as enjoyment for others, can I ever really be 100% sure? Well, yes. Or can I? Well, I guess if I lived in a simulation, they probably wouldn't show me that movie to make me self-aware. Oh wait, maybe it's reverse psychology, so I wouldn't think exactly that. I probably don't need to tell you that as a child, this was a bit much to handle. I always thought about if there were cameras in my mirrors, and even tried to be likable and normal when I was by myself, just in case someone was watching. As an introvert, I must say that was really exhausting. But I gotta tell you, after all this movie is objectively a masterpiece. If you haven't come around to seeing it, here's my recommendation. It is a great social commentary that was really ahead of its time in the late 90s. It has never lost its importance. Every year there's more and more media content out there that really shows how far humans are willing to go in order to entertain their consumers. It begs the question, what are we doing to the people that we laugh at in the comfort of our homes by taking it to the extreme? However, I am an adult now, and that doesn't scare me anymore. Jim Carrey, however, he's still scary. I can't be the only one, please. Next up, a movie for people who are still not over Pride and Prejudice 2005. Listen, I told you before, I am an annoying person. So of course I love Pride and Prejudice from 2005. In fact, I really love Pride and Prejudice from 2005. It is the textbook example of a perfect period romance drama. Keira Knightley is doing Keira Knightley things. Love her since she made me question my sexuality when I watched Pirates of the Caribbean back in the day. And then you've got Matthew Macfadyen as Mr. Darcy, who is perfect. Even though I'm not a big fan of the sideburns, he is a win for the I can fix him girlies. It is a tale as old as time. Mr. Darcy is full of pride, which leads Elizabeth to be full of prejudice. And the rest is history. Jane Austen invented enemies to lovers, and I am really thankful. R.I.P. Jane, you would have loved ranking romance tropes. By the way, I have never seen the BBC version of Pride and Prejudice. I know a lot of people prefer that adaptation, but frankly I am absolutely satisfied with what Joe Wright gave us. Honestly, what is it you guys have that is better than this moment? And now to the problem. Even though I watch Pride and Prejudice 2005 regularly since it is a really big comfort movie for me, I am always on the lookout for movies that have a similar energy to them. For all of you who feel the same, I cannot recommend Emma enough. Specifically the 2020 movie by Autumn de Wilde, since there obviously have been adaptations before. And I know it's kinda cheap to compare one Jane Austen adaptation to another, but I honestly think that there are a lot of people who haven't seen it. It is criminally underrated actually. Also, despite having a similar feeling to Pride and Prejudice, at the same time it has a very distinct visual and narrative character. Emma is bright, saturated, and feels warm in general, whereas Pride and Prejudice has a rather somber and more realistic look. Also, Emma is quite funny. The script and editing are quick-witted, and there's a lot of funny looks that characters give each other.
Man's great innocence.
Innocence? Innocence? No?
I must say, Bill Nighy really carries the humor in this. He plays this zany father of protagonist Emma Woodhouse with a whole lot of antics. His comedic timing is perfect. Also, Anya Taylor-Joy gives Emma Woodhouse this arrogant yet lovable character. Jane Austen once said she's probably the only one that likes Emma, and I see what she means. Emma, after all, is sometimes girl-bossing a bit too close to the sun. But that just makes for a really interesting protagonist. When it comes to the romance, there is just enough and also enough drama in this, as in Pride and Prejudice. After all, these are Jane Austen adaptations. You've got beautiful people in beautiful period dresses and lavish estates somewhere in England, but class and family drama are always the central motives within these stories. We don't have enemies to lovers here, but Emma Woodhouse and Mr. Knightley are equally full of chemistry and romantic tension. Honestly, I couldn't decide which couple I liked more. The bickering between those two, who are equally rich and know each other to an extent where they openly confront each other from the very beginning, is very interesting. Anya Taylor-Joy and Johnny Flynn have great on-screen chemistry, and even though the sideburns don't seem to go anywhere, I must say that Mr. Knightley is very slept on. That man is giving written by a woman. In fact, the way the romance in this movie is conveyed is in general very female gazy. That comes down to how, for example, kissing scenes are being filmed. Autumn de Wilde did an amazing job balancing all of the aspects in this movie. It's everything you want, trust me. With Emma, you will now have 2 films to watch over and over again. You're welcome. The next recommendation is for a movie for people whose favorite season is summer. If summer is your favorite season, good for you, I guess. But I kinda don't trust you. Why are you being so extreme? Who hurt you? I am a transitional season girly. Summer is full of stimulation overload. I can't take the constant heat where you can't even cool down during the night. Sure, you can sit outside until late, but you'll also be fucking butchered by mosquitoes. I only enjoy summer during the 2 weeks of vacation I'm going on every year, but I don't really appreciate working my everyday job in the burning heat of hell. But nevertheless, I really enjoy movies about summer, because I can enjoy the vibe of the season, but I am at the same time sitting in my dark cave at home. Every summer I watch this little movie called Call Me By Your Name from the year 2017, which you probably know because despite having had a relatively small budget, this movie is well known and loved by many. It was the first movie I have ever seen Timothée Chalamet in, and I am a big fan of his ever since, especially of his rap career. Call Me By Your Name is about a 17-year-old boy, Elio, who falls in love with his father's research assistant Oliver, who stays with him and his family during the summer. They have quite the age gap at the time, so romanticizing this relationship is not without its problems. To its core though, this story is about desire, about a summer's love, and about heartbreak. But most importantly for this recommendation, this movie is the absolute embodiment of summer. So much so that I can possibly watch it in a different season. And this comes from a person that used to watch High School Musical 2 every year when decorating the Christmas tree. This movie doesn't just have all the little details right, like going to the lake or around town by bike, kind of not knowing what to do with yourself with all the free time and the heat. It also has this really nice 80s Italian countryside setting. No smartphones or computers inside, just really pretty Italian villas, reading to each other in foreign languages and innocently enjoying peaches. Watching this movie feels like a dream or like a memory from long ago. And don't even get me started on the music. The Call Me By Your Name soundtrack is really up there. It has a lot of 80s bangers on it, and then there's Sufjan Stevens putting his whole soul fuzzy into Mystery of Love and Visions of Gideon. I love these songs so much, and especially how they are incorporated into the movie. The very last scene is my Roman Empire. I think about it so much, it really slaps, and Timothy is fucking brilliant. It has to be up there as one of the best final scenes / credit scenes ever in a movie. Lastly, I need to give a trigger warning for everyone that hasn't seen the film already, as Armie Hammer is in it, sadly. Oh, to see without my eyes, indeed. Next, a movie for dropkick enthusiasts. You love yourself some dropkicks? Are you maybe training them in your room secretly? Be honest. Well, anyway, I have the perfect movie for you. Memories of Murder is a 2003 South Korean film by Bong Joon-ho, who is one of my absolute favorite directors.
Thank you for being you, and I like everything about him. His smile, his crazy hair, the way he talks, the way he walks.
I am still waiting for the day Parasite will be thrown from the throne as my favorite movie of all time, but so far there's no contestant in sight. Memories of Murder is really up there as one of the best movies by him and also one of my favorite thrillers. It is a dark crime thriller based on a series of murders committed in the Hwasong area during 1986 and 1991, which was for a time Korea's most infamous cold case. You've got, as usual for Bong Joon-ho, Song Kang-ho as the leading man. He is the local detective on the case who is absolutely overwhelmed with the gravity of the crimes. He claims to be able to find suspects by eye contact alone and also manipulates and beats up suspects in order to get a confession. In the beginning, he gets assistance from a detective who is Seoul-based and who has more experience with crime scene analysis. Obviously, their methods clash during the investigation, so you've got this classic unlike police do, which works really well here. Tonally, Memories of Murder has a dark David Fincher thriller vibe, which is weird to say, especially because Zodiac, which compares to the closest, came out 4 years later in 2007, but obviously to this day is better known in the West. Memories of Murder, however, has this contrasting Korean slapstick humor intertwined into the very dark and grave story. For example, throughout the movie, the police interrogations are so amateurish they are almost comedic, but they also leave a really bad aftertaste, because back then the police apparently did make a lot of errors, used a lot of brutality and subpar investigations that even led to a wrongful conviction. With a lot of scenes you can't be sure if they are supposed to be funny or not, and I think that's brilliant from a filmmaking perspective. Also, you will have these absurd scenes full of physical humor, and then the next scene will be fucking scary and brutal.
It's just a funny and scary movie.
Whilst everything being coated in this fitting, dreary film noir style where it is almost always raining. This film will make you feel really uneasy and full of suspense. There is one scene in it, and I won't spoil it obviously, but watching it the first time after having had to clutch my ass cheeks in suspense, I got jump scared so badly. The way this narrative is conveyed is nothing short of perfect in my opinion. For example, relatively early on, the detectives find out that the killings correlate to rainy nights and a specific song being requested on the radio. I can't tell you how scary these scenes are, where they know that something is going to happen. The desperation of the detectives and also the absolute fear that is hanging over the entire area really captivates you as the viewer. Also, the very last scene is hauntingly brilliant. Again, one of my favorite endings ever. But let's talk about the thing that really brought us here. I already mentioned that this movie is full of physical comedy. Honestly though, the dropkicks really do it for me. I have to laugh so hard every time there's a fucking dropkick in this movie, which is several times and always really out of nowhere. But besides being funny, for me in this movie they serve a clear function to show that violence is almost always being used first before asking any questions, which will have serious consequences later on in the movie. If you are a fan of thrillers and true crime alike, this movie is an absolute must-watch. Also, obviously, if you like dropkicks. And as always, please watch it in Korean. Remember what Bong Joon-ho said?
자막, 서브타이틀의 장벽도 아니죠. 한 1인치 정도 되는 그 장벽을 뛰어넘으면 여러분들이 훨씬 더 많은 영화를 즐길 수 있습니다.
Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films.
Next, a movie with and for hot people. Stardust is a weird and kinda unhinged movie. It is a modern fairy tale based on a book by Neil Gaiman. Yes, the guy who also wrote Good Omens. And it is set in a really interesting fantasy world. I watched this movie as a child and I remember being mesmerized not only by the cool intertwining story concepts, but also by all of the hot people. Stardust centers around main character Tristan Thorne, played by Charlie Cox, who is down bad for Victoria, a girl from his village played by Sienna Miller. Two very hot people to begin with. However, she's not at all interested in him, but that doesn't refrain her from making use of him. One night, in yet another attempt to win her over, Tristan promises to bring her a fallen star in exchange for her hand in marriage. You see, Tristan is kinda dumb throughout the entire film. His decision making is consistently really poor. Like, what exactly does he think he can bring back to her? What he doesn't know in the beginning is that he won't be the only one trying to find the star, who turns out to be a hot woman played by Claire Danes. So even stars are hot in this movie. Right in the beginning, this movie introduces several storylines. You've got Tristan's quest, the story of three witches who want to find the star in order to regain back their youth and powers, and the story about the heir of Stronghold, a magical kingdom that is separated from Tristan's village by a magical border, which is quite literally just a wall with a guy. The dying king sends his last remaining sons on the quest to search for a ruby stone that just so happens to collapse with a falling star. First of all, I need to say this movie is silly. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it also has this anachronistic and modern feel to it. For example, in the kingdom it is tradition that all of the king's sons enter this last man standing competition with each other and constantly try to kill each other in order to be the last remaining heir to the throne. This is already really unhinged, but it doesn't stop there. Throughout the movie you have all of the brothers who have already been more or less brutally murdered, spectating and commenting on what happens until the heir is finally found. That is just one of many aspects of really creative storytelling in this movie. Oh, and if this hasn't convinced you yet that this film is for and with a ton of hot people, there's also Ben Barnes in it and Henry Cavill, even though I have to admit that he looks kind of weird in this. Also, Michelle Pfeiffer's really hot, and besides all of the hot people, it also got sky pirates and cross-dressing Robert De Niro, so what are you waiting for? Stardust is a movie for chilly Sunday afternoon, for girlies who are into astrology, and most importantly, it is for hot people. And don't ask me what that means. I don't know. I don't make the rules. So yeah, that's it. I hope you haven't already seen all of these movies. I might make another video on movie recommendations since I have a lot more ideas in the back of my mind. For now, I am thinking about making some more bookish content, and afterwards I have some plans regarding certain TV shows that Netflix especially put out in the last months. Do you have any weird movie recommendations you want to share? Write a comment if you'd like. But for now, thanks for watching.